everything. So, and then I hadn't smoked cannabis for almost 10 years, and then was reintroduced to cannabis. And it was part of my healing process and reintegration back into the civilian life, as we all are now, out of the military life. And with Aaron Newsom and myself, we founded an organization, Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance, to help donate back to the veteran community free cannabis once a month. We used to do it twice a month. Now we meet once a month from our own gardens. We were very lucky to receive a license from the county to dispense. So we're able to do that legally in the new Prop 64 era. And we also have a dispensary over in SoCal and everything that's open to medical and recreational members.
Hello, my name is Alec Dixon, and I'm one of the co-founders of SC Laboratories, which is a cannabis testing analytical lab here in Santa Cruz, over in the Harvey West area, kind of by Costco. And I'm a veteran of the Navy as well. I was in the submarine service, so quite a bit different kind of type of service, and in some ways, I'm incredibly grateful for that experience, to have it help get me to Santa Cruz and begin my work with cannabis. But I was one of the veterans that was very lucky to not kind of have to be deployed and to go through the trauma of war and the lasting impact it has on anybody that is an experiencer of that type of trauma. And so I have a lot of passion and service and purpose, in helping to educate around kind of cannabis and post-traumatic stress, and help as much as I can to be a good word and a good steward of this plant, to help essentially identify how much cannabis can help in any condition, but so much around kind of post-traumatic stress, because so many veterans are committing suicide every day. 22 veterans a day, kind of from suicide in the United States, and then there's another 22 to 25 a day that die from prescription pill overdoses every day, and all the aspects of post-traumatic stress and the trauma that somebody's left with. Cannabis has different phytochemical in it that can be very targeted towards helping out vets, and so I work with the kind of science of cannabis a lot, and one of my biggest passions just is helping to share the knowledge about this plant, because a lot of what we do at SC Labs is it's almost through data and analytics of being able to help almost provide meaning in a way of helping provide a language almost to be able to have people interpret this plant, and be able to choose the effect they're looking for, and be able to most efficiently navigate the spectrum of effect that cannabis can provide.
Excellent. And so for a lot of our audience too, you mentioned the pill mill and things that are associated with the VA, and can we just look at what the VA's traditional therapy route, and then the alternative being more a botanical phytotherapy route, and understand the difference as far as quality of life and overall providing them a service, right? Getting them back to homeostasis.
Well, when I was discharged in 2006, my first visit was at the VA in Hawaii at Tripler Army Medical Center, and it was 2000. It was around 2007. I was having issues reintegrating back after being in a wartime era, and then it was I always say, like, the VA is government healthcare at its finest, because it's free, yes, but it's also conventional medicine and everything. There was a lot of when I was going and everything, there was a lot of unsure of what was really going on. The VA was in shambles and stuff. Since then, they've added a lot more money to the budget since then, and it became go see your primary care physician, recommend to see a therapist hooks you, you're soon prescribed an SSRI, a benzo, uh, uh, and it was my first time taking any type of psychotropics and everything. And it was just, here's 30 milligrams, take this once a day, we'll see you in a month. You go through and after you get taking, first when I started taking the medicine and everything, I felt like I was out of body experience, very lethargic, could not socialize, couldn't keep up with day-to-day activities or anything like that. And I started taking half, 15 milligrams dosage and everything. And I finally went back to the doctor, and now they were like, oh, well, you need to take the full 30 milligrams to get the total effect. I was like, this is too strong for me. And at that point, I stopped taking it. And at that same point in time, I was living in Hawaii. A friend of mine was like, hey, let's smoke some cannabis and everything. And I was like, sure, right at this point, nothing, I'll try anything. And it helped. And then soon after, I started growing a couple plants in my closet in a one-bedroom apartment in Waikiki, living on Kalakaua Avenue, and and that just for my own medicine. And then I finished school, and I want to seek this out a little bit further. And what other better place to come is to Santa Cruz. I've been through here a couple times, surfing and camping, over my life, while I was in the Army. And I found it very peaceful. It was the first time in 10 years that I lived outside the military complex. I was always around military installations, military personnel, living on Oahu. 20% of the military, 20% of the population's military families. So it was kind of, it took me some adjustments, but I was lucky to get a job with Alec, and at the local hydro store, and Smiley.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Share.
and so it just continued a mission. I started growing. I kept growing and cultivating for myself, and then thought about giving back to the veteran community. And I found a couple vets through just being down at the vets hall down here, and started basically growing for them and giving them an ounce a month, and then it kind of grew, and I met Aaron, and we combined our gardens together, and we started giving back more to the veteran community. So like once a month, we were driving around town all day delivering an ounce of free meds to different veterans, mostly Vietnam veterans, that really didn't have the support network that the veterans do now, that were kind of left off to the side when they got back from war. They did not know anything about the VA or going through that process and stuff. And so we kind of just started integrating back with those veterans and everything. Say, hey, why don't you go down to the Veteran Service Office down here and see if they can get you some help and stuff. There's a lot of benefits out there for veterans. It's just a lengthy process to get those benefits. So things started to form. We got a spot. Kind Peoples was very fortunate when they opened to allow us to meet upstairs for a little bit.
I remember those
the Slider
days.
was there.
I remember
and
those days.
Probably within like 3 months, we outgrew that area.
Yeah.
And then we were very fortunate to get a spot at the VFW to meet behind twice a month, the first and third Mondays of the month. We did that for 3 years. And we built up a community. Summertime, we were having barbecues. Jason was there. Bands playing. Lots of people driving from all over the state coming to see us and everything. And it became more of a community and a movement for us as veterans. And it's grown, and I would say the VA is a lot better than what it was in 2007 when I experienced the VA. There's a lot more support networks. There's a lot more therapy sessions. There's a lot more community. But I'd still say it's government healthcare at its finest. There's just for instance, the Monterey Clinic just opened. It's a beautiful clinic and everything, but they don't have a pharmacy there. I don't know why. If you really want to see how the VA operates, I would recommend go to the San Francisco VA or the Oakland VA, because it's disheartening going in there and sitting in there for 8 hours waiting on your meds to come out and everything. So I'd say it's been a better process for me. this plant has helped me. It's helped a lot of other veterans get through the hard times. So we've tried to. That's our main mission, and that's what we're trying to carry throughout and everything. And hopefully we can work with the VA as we have in the past, doing a cannabis sleep study. And hopefully they'll recognize it, as Albert pointed out earlier. They had fake THC, synthetic THC for a cancer patient. I was like, well, how come they can't provide? Why can't they just have regular THC, something that's from a garden and everything? But hopefully soon. And the things that Alec and the guys at SE Labs are doing is phenomenal. Being able to map the terpenes. And I remember when they first started, I didn't even know what terpenes were. Now I can see what high levels of myrcene or linalool and all these other things that I found that I didn't even know had health benefits. I was just smell and taste and everything, but they have medicinal benefits as well.
Know your medicine.
Yeah, and in so many ways, it's it's really fascinating because with the veteran population and how much post-traumatic stress it goes so deep, in your life and your how much it affects your families. The standard approach towards treatment isn't working, and there's faith being lost in such wide amounts, and it's amazing because it's kind of getting people to look towards a more natural, holistic way of treating, and kind of treating this lifelong condition that somebody has, because the traditional approach towards prescribing SSRIs, like Jason was mentioning, like Xanax, SSRIs like Prozac and Wellbutrin and kind of all those types of compounds, and then benzodiazepines like Xanax and Valium, and how much that does such long-term damage and has such withdrawals. It does incredible damage to people over time, and the withdrawals is unbelievable. And then kind of for pain, kind of being prescribed oxys and kind of all these other opioid kind of narcotics prescribed by doctors, because then vets taking combinations and cocktails of those pills, and self-medicating with alcohol, kind of creates this cocktail for what has become one of the largest kind of suicide epidemics, kind of and through the veteran population, it's kind of like showing this deep wound in our system of kind of veterans going and serving, not being taken care of, and just and the effects of war and the effects of kind of how long that sticks with you, and just how much they're just forgotten by. And so then, I think that's what's so exciting about the potential of cannabis, because, through understanding, the different terpenes that make up the smell, it's like aromatherapy, the different compounds that are primary in the smell of cannabis, will help to make a strain, actually feel more uplifting or on the other spectrum of it, more sedating, and, kind of what has always been described as indica sativa. Those words kind of, now that science is and cannabis testing is around, it's really helping us to understand more and pinpoint what type of compounds are there, so we can set ourselves up for most success if we're trying to utilize this plant's therapies. And what's really fascinating to me is how because with veterans that have almost incredibly heightened sensitivity to cannabis. It's like if you never smoked cannabis before and you have this heightened anxiety types condition, if you smoke a really high THC strain that's high in a certain terpene like terpinolene, which is on the far end of the sativa type spectrum, which is cerebral and kind of really that can be
Racy.
really racy. That can be incredibly racy, and it can and oftentimes it can have a really negative response. And so there's this whole kind of there's this really important thing called framing. That is to essentially prime your endocannabinoid system for success. It's like the worst approach would be eat a really high dose edible and you find yourself in the hospital. You probably won't ever do that again. Or anybody that's new to cannabis, kind of smoking a really, really high THC strain, that's not a good approach, because you can get really too high and uncomfortable and kind of and self-critical and all these things, and then once that happens, it tends to make every other experience that similar way. you know, there's almost this neuroplastic kind of memory that's being created of, oh, cannabis, anxious, bad, even negative, and so then you know, there's so many people that say, oh, cannabis, it's not for me, you know, and so many, you know, people I know, and I love that don't, you know, use cannabis or utilize cannabis, all kind of have had this exact same kind of reaction, which is one of the biggest things that why they don't try it. But you know, with science now, you know, there's actually an explanation for why that happens, you know, and it's because there's this overstimulation of THC on your CB1 receptor, which is in your brain, throughout your central nervous system, and you know, when there's this oversaturation, it creates this really negative response, and your brain takes a snapshot and like stores that for next time, and you know, it tends to make the experience really bad. But through, you know, an approach towards, you know, microdosing THC over a period of time, and you know, and you know, essentially training and working with, you know, a veteran or anybody new to cannabis, and kind of, you know, there's a saying, it's like dose low and titrate slow, you know, and that's, you know, really important way that somebody can begin their path with cannabis, because, you know, in working with other compounds like CBD, because whenever you know, there's really high CBD, really low THC, CBD has this natural anti-anxiety, antidepressant, you know, kind of, you know, it's pain culling, anti-epileptic, all these different amazing different effects, and you know, so what is a great way to start, and is a, you know, great way that I've seen a lot of success with a lot of vets, kind of beginning, you know, with starting with a negative imprint or a negative experience, you know, whenever you basically start working with higher CBD, really low THC, microdosing it over time, you know, going through the ritual where, you know, kind of you sit down and grind up bud and, you know, roll it into a joint, and you know, there's all these naturally meditative kind of like, you know, balancing kind of endocannabinoid things that are happening just from starting to
The ceremony,
do that, the ceremony,
yeah.
that, you know, and you know, kind of, and then, you know, by going and doing things that are, you know, and so microdosing THC and then doing things that are associated with pleasurable, you know, over time, you know, somebody can start titrating up their THC amount to where the high isn't negative anymore. And just to wrap the point, you know, because then ultimately what a lot of veterans see, and I'm sure Jason can attest to this, is, you know, typically once you know, somebody that has post-traumatic stress has gotten through the negative anxiety beginnings of working with cannabis, you know, typically then, like, THC is their number one go-to daily, you know, medicine to treat, you know, the anxiety or, you know, the different things from post-traumatic stress. So it almost like CBD is the great way to begin the protocol, and then, you know, ultimately THC seems to then, you know, become more of the daily, you know, treatment that's used.
You know, I was speaking with Holistic Veterans Paul here in this space the other day with our host Kokoro, and he was talking about from his experience growing up in Texas and then joining the service, that this industry, this plant, could be a really great career path for a lot of veterans, and ways to apply some of the background and disciplines learned in the service. Is that something you guys share, and do you have any ideas of kind of that I know SCVA has the peace through cultivation mantra, and I think it is a powerful powerful narrative, and it's a great service that you guys provide employing veterans, but even like beyond that, of just the education and getting the veteran community involved with the stewarding of this plant.
So we make it a point to hire veterans when we're hiring. We also make it a point to hire veterans that are looking for some type of therapy, getting back into the garden, horticulture therapy. It was a big healing process, and Aaron's as well. Getting out of the service and everything. So, you know, I think 85% of our workforce are veterans, whom are mostly disabled veterans through the VA that have some type of rating. And the majority of them work in the garden. We have different aspects of our business through manufacturing, cultivation, distribution, and retail. So the majority of the vets that we hire that their main focus is getting back into the garden. They want to learn how to grow. They want to learn how to, nurture a plant. They also like, as we've all found out, being veterans and stuff, we like the camaraderie. It's a family, a brotherhood, sisterhood kind of thing, fraternity, sorority, whatever you want to call it. And so after leaving the service, and then, you know, not finding that or not having that support network and everything, the veterans that come in and everything, we were able to provide that support network. You know, going to educate and everything, we try to bring, you know, at our monthly meetings and everything, we try to not only educate, you know, the veteran community about cannabis, but we also bring other veteran service organizations out to just relay and let the other veteran population know that there are services out there for them that they have maybe not have seen or sought after or not even known about. Housing, employment opportunities, different things, medical, dental. But to get back into the garden part of it and everything, we try to bring a new employee team member in, get them trained, and it's not easy work. You know, it's laborious, it's intensive. Sometimes it's long days, and those things that we all, I think, that have gone through the military, whatever branch of service, had to do that. You know, had to struggle, to strive, to, you know, commit, and that's one of the things. It's a big commitment, and I feel like we have a very good success rate of employing, you know, veterans and everything.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think you know, joining the service, you know, this voluntary kind of service that then you're a part of, whether you're in the Army or the Marines or the Navy or the Air Force or, you know, what have you. You know, you end up doing this kind of like term where you have the, you know, you're dedicated, and then you kind of like, you know, I mean, you know, I think so many of the leaders in that I know in cannabis are veterans, you know, like
Wow.
Jason, and seeing how much, you know, veterans and the mission that a veteran has to be in service, you know, to this cause, you know, I think really translates from the military incredibly well to cannabis, you know, because when you know, start working with cannabis in so many ways, it, you know, really empowers you and enlightens aspects of your life, and really, I think, you know, I think in so many ways cannabis almost, you know, has a way of alluring us and, you know, having us become its biggest kind of champions or proponents through our voice and our passion about it. You know, it almost like kind of from Michael Pollan's Botany of Desire, like the idea of coevolution, how you know, who's really in the driver's seat, how much are these plants, you know, the secret life of plants, how much are the intelligence of these plants, you know, helping to kind of, you know, lure us in and become servants and helping it to kind of, you know, come out into this broader kind of world paradigm with its acceptance, and it's really amazing because, you know, it's like yeah, Jason and many other people I know and I look up to kind of in the cannabis industry are vets, and a lot of them are combat war vets, and just and you know, it's such a shift, you know, to be in that world, you know, to kind of being out of the military and then now I'm in California and working with cannabis. It's like it's to such a almost diametrically opposed, but such a, you know,
opposites.
yeah, it's, yeah, exactly. But it's yeah, I think it's definitely
Dennis
amazing
Ferron,
cause
yeah.
to be in service too.
Dennis Ferron was a vet as well,
He was.
and as soon as he got out, it was back to the green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And rest in power, rest in peace, Dennis. You know, his memorial is tomorrow, and so we give thanks for his life, and his life was his message, and we are all a part of that, and that was a part of our upbringing in our different groups and ongoing works with Santa Cruz Veterans Alliance and SC Labs and the Prop 215 era, which is sunsetting, which is interesting with his life sunsetting. Which is, you know, bittersweet, and it's hard. But maybe we could touch on that with your respective groups. How has Prop 64 impacted your work, and if there are any challenges or things that you've overcome throughout this transitional period, and what you're looking forward to, the mission now.
Right. Well, we want to continue our mission. We're going to continue our mission until somebody tells us we can't. So, you know, the thing is, it's like, it's not it's heavily regulated now. We're not sure that we're able to give away medicine without paying the taxes, the cultivation tax for that. There's a lot of uncertainty. Our other partner, Seth, was just up in Sacramento last week, speaking with subcommittees about having other organizations that are community-based donations, free donations to members of their community that belong, to their group. And there was some recommendations this was a subcommittee, to the committee to somehow have a license for a compassion use program. But we don't know how far that'll get. But we are making steps to, try to make the state aware of groups not only like SCVA, but WHAM, Sweet Leaf Caregivers, and there's various throughout the state, and Weed for Warriors. So, we want to make sure that just because there is some change in the regulation and everything, that we're able to still continue our mission. As a VA, a veteran member of the VA and everything, we receive our medicine for free. Actually, I don't have to go to the pharmacy. They just mail it to me in my P.O. box here downtown. Yeah, any type of narcotic or anything you want, they mail it to you. So that's the reason why there's no pharmacy. But it's free, and there should be some alternative, to those prescription, pharmaceuticals and stuff. We made headway with American Legion. We made headway with them by speaking about cannabis and the benefits. They see it. They've taken all the way to DC, the VFW. They've heard our story and everything, but it's just different. We won't let up, until the message gets out and everything. And we're really unsure. We really don't know how to proceed, but we're going to proceed like we've always been. The only thing different now is that we used to dispense our medicine at our monthly meetings, and now that we have a licensed dispensary, we are able to continue with our meetings and everything, because we see it as a community meeting. And then we give vouchers out to the meeting, and then those veteran members go to our dispensary to receive their free medicine and stuff. Our donations from other organizations has pretty much dropped. We've had a couple of, little donations. We used to get a lot of donations from a lot of other cannabis businesses here. Jane Nectar was one of them, and it's kind of gone obsolete because people are really unsure, or they don't have a license to cultivate or to manufacture, or the whole track and trace thing is why it's being implemented and everything is kind of still in a gray area. But we cultivate. We're kind of unique. We're vertically integrated. We hold licenses all the way from cultivation, manufacturing, dispensing, and distribution. So we feel like we can still keep that at arm's length as a donation, and the only tax that we have to pay on that medicine that we give away is the cultivation tax, because it never goes any step further than the cultivation. So then we're working with our attorney to figure out how we can do this in the new Prop 64 era as a regular like 501c component and everything. So a lot of interesting. It's an interesting time. Not that it was already not interesting. Not even like to say what we're doing, but the county is. I've been through the county process with the cultivation committee. I sat on the C4 committee. That was appointed by the board of supervisors to figure out the cultivation, and I think it was just a big waste of time. To be honest with you, and the county has been punting the ball and kicking the ball too long for this community here, which has been rooted in cultivating cannabis. I mean, cannabis is not going to. We're not growing berries or anything, and cannabis doesn't thrive down in the lowlands. It thrives up in the mountains, up in the hills, full sun, outside the marine layer, and I just don't see it being next to a row crop of raspberries or strawberries or anything. It's not going to thrive. And why, we're growing. There's vineyards everywhere up in the mountains. There's wineries. There's tasting wineries, and
Yeah.
You know, and
Same
you know,
idea.
you know,
Why-
yeah, why can't you know, I just don't know, you know, and I get frustrated with it, and I've gone through the process since it started in 2011. So, you know, I say stay strong, you know, keep, you know, let's keep at it with them and everything. You know, it's an election year. You know, there's certain supervisors that are running and everything that could help benefit the cannabis community and everything, and I think that's an alternative. We have to vote with our power, you know. Power
Your
to vote.
values, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, with Prop 64, you know, in so many ways, yeah, it's a, you know, it's really challenging, fascinating time for, I think, for anybody that's kind of going through the process. But you know, I think, you know, kind of what, you know, to what Jason was speaking to, you know, so much of the root of how cannabis got here, you know, on the backs of those legends that, you know, the giants whose shoulders we're standing on, you know, people like Dennis Brown, Valerie, Mike Corral, you know, kind of, you know, the work of Sweet Leaf, you know, the work carried on with groups like Jason at CVA. It's around compassion, and you know, this plant produces abundance, and you know, to be able to provide it for free or low cost to people that are sick and dying, you know, is almost a service we have in working with this plant, and it's how, you know, this plant kind of legally got to this point, you know, based on compassion and providing to the sick and poor. And so I think, you know, within all these regulations, you know, like, you know, hundreds of pages of all this stuff, compliance, you know, there's no real kind of chunk out there for kind of allowing for philanthropic giving or compassion giving, you know. And so I think that's one of the most crucial parts that as a community, you know, we have to kind of really rally for. And I think now, you know, that, you know, the cannabis, you know, community can create this super PAC that can put tons of money behind local politicians, just like all these other crooks. You know, I think we can, you know, kind of support something that's good. But, you know, but I mean, and not to call the, you know, I think the whole act of kind of, you know, lacing lobbyists and, you know, greasing politicians is crooked, but
Our system
you
is
know,
pretty crooked.
Our system's pretty crooked, but you know, it's like we can play in that game too now, and I think the cannabis vote is, and I think you know, it's one of the most, you know, imperative things that, you know, is fought for is you know, to, you know, the ability to continue the philanthropic, compassion-based giving, you know,
Welcome.
but yeah, all in all, you know, it's you know, the new regulations beyond challenging the compassion model, you know, they're, you know, it's, in so many ways, you know, we're kind of moving out of the cannabis industry and into the compliance industry, and so it's this whole new world of navigating compliance, and you know, it's gonna be really fascinating to see how it all kind of, you know, pans out. But you know, one of the ways that I've been kind of, you know, talking about it, describing it, is it's almost like there's this, you know, this starting line, you know, and there's this race where everybody's, you know, trying to go like start digging for the gold, and you know, for legal cannabis, and you know, the compliance field, you know, is almost like this like minefield that's in front of everybody that's running, and so everybody's just like starting to dart out into this, you know, brave new world of compliance cannabis, and it's fascinating because I think there's going to be, you know, just, you know, similar in the times of the gold rush, you know, there's going to be, you know, a lot of winners and a lot of losers, and you know, and the crazy thing about this time, you know, is that, you know, so many people are backed by VC money, you know, venture capital money and angel investment money, and all these like crazy hedge funds, you know, trying to come into the cannabis industry. But it's like, if you haven't been like navigating this minefield for a really long time, you know, there's a lot of, you know, potential lines in front of you that, you know, can really, you know, kind of put you under as a business really quickly. You know, now that, you know, things like pesticides are so tightly regulated, you know, cannabis is pretty much now the most regulated plant that's ever been regulated in agriculture, and you know, really strict kind of, you know, limits on, you know, all these different systemics, translaminar, EPA regulated pesticides that are allowed in food, but you know, they're not allowed in cannabis, and I think, personally, I think that's a, you know, a really good thing. I hope, you know, cannabis regulations and the regulations on pesticides, I hope, are going to, you know, almost uproot a lot of the dirty history of the Green Revolution, and how, you know, it's, I mean, just the really strict pesticide regulations are almost going to show that certain areas of California aren't even going to be able to grow clean cannabis, even if they're growing it completely organically, because, you know, there's land in Central Valley, and you know, and you know, where people are just dive bombing planes, like shooting like Syngenta pesticides out of and so it's like, the reality of drift and, the reality of, unavoidable residual environmental contamination, even if you're a cannabis farmer and you have really good kind of intentions, and, it's like you might kind of, if you chose to buy land in, a really high, dirty ag zone, it's like, the regulations of cannabis are almost going to like bring a lot of these things up to the surface. And so I'm hoping on a broader level, kind of regulations of cannabis are going to get consumers of cannabis to, understand the importance of, choosing organic and and how that interprets to your food. And, and I think the people that really make it through this new world of compliant cannabis are almost going to be the people that, are more in line with the ideas of the slow food movement, because, knowing the source of where you're getting your cannabis, because if you don't know where you're getting it, it could potentially have pesticides, and if you're as a business buying a bunch of cannabis trim to turn it into, extracts so you can make it into vape pen or into, chocolates. It's like, if you don't know the farmer and you're just buying it from some, bulk monocrop kind of, whatever farm, there's potential that there's pesticides on there, and now those pesticides are going to get in your system and get you in trouble in this new compliant industry. And so I think, inadvertently the regulations are going to, I think for everybody that's been doing it for a really long time, I think, there's almost a level of, what's the word I'm looking for? There's almost an advantage that people have, basically have been doing it, because if you've been growing cannabis for a long time, and you've fallen on your face multiple times learning how to deal with spider mites and all the pests and all the pathogens like powdery mildew and all these things, now as long as you can navigate the compliance world, you're pretty set to be able to grow clean cannabis, when the stakes are so high. For people that are kind of just like coming in thinking that they're gonna just come and take over the cannabis industry and they've never really worked this plant before, I think they have another thing coming, because it's really difficult to kind of, grow this plant without, having, the ability to use a lot of these, big agricultural pesticides. And so I think, the cream is gonna rise to the top, as long as, and I think those that have been doing it forever have the most to gain and the most advantage, versus a lot of people that are just super in it for the money coming into corporate takeover. I think they don't, I think they, if you come in with a over confident mentality, I think the cannabis plant's going to humble a lot of people out real quickly.
Seeing, that's huge. And what I was hearing too about the rows of rows of raspberries, and kind of like a local government push it to South County, a lot of those soils are no longer really thriving. They're not biologically diverse. They're dead. Yeah, they've been fumigated to the point of dust. Yeah, that's right. That's absolutely right. And so it's in our best interest to steward the most wholesome and healthy plants, which could be also, it's a double whammy, because not only is the quality of the product superior, but we had a regenerative panel just a couple hours ago, and they're talking about, polyculture. So not only are you growing wholesome, biologically rich and diverse cannabis from seed, but you're also growing really good food, and you're also cultivating microbial and bacterial and fungal and protozoa, activity in the soil, bringing new life to something that was probably either dormant or just a little less diverse. And so over time, we're actually, through this plant, this catalyst, improving our biology in our beautiful county that is also very small and very unique, and we are a very unique people here, the constituency. And so if we want to seize and bridle this opportunity in this moment in time, it really serves everyone to align and engage in the civic process. There's 2 meetings this week, both at the county building, 9:00 on Tuesday and Wednesday, and it's a great opportunity for all of us to engage in the process. And if you can't make it, there's ways of just sending an email to your district supervisor, because the more we're aligned and the more we're speaking the same language and advocating for the same thing, which is keep it small, keep it local, and keep it wholesome. I mean, that's the piece here is, non-GMO and don't isolate this activity, this craft of stewardship, into an area that is already poisoned. That's a big part of it. And if we look at Beauregard Vineyards, if we look at other beautiful craft agricultural groups and families in our county, they are in the mountains. I don't see rows of grapes next to the strawberry coolers in South County. They're up in the hills where the appellation is really rich and unique. And again, cannabis too, in the lowlands, the marine layer comes in, and that's when you start seeing botrytis, you start seeing mildew. If you take it up into the Santa Cruz Mountains, you're a little above that marine layer, and you get these really beautiful expressions in the UV light up near the summit too. That a little bit of adversity from the UV rays produces more resin, produces more medicine for the patient or for the consumer. So all of these things are very important, and I want to hear from you guys. We're getting close to the top of the hour, and I really appreciate you both joining us. Just some final words of wisdom, and maybe even ways for our audience to support your work and engage with you, and also just kind of like a seed of hope for the future, what you would like to see in our community.
Well, our meetings are open to the public. We meet the first Mondays of every month at the Live Oak Grange on 17th Avenue at 6 p.m. They usually last about an hour. The parking lot does get full, so arrive early. And we have a different topic of discussion at every meeting. You can come out, support. Also come out and support the local cannabis community and trying to fight for an ordinance that suits all, not just cannabis growers, but the residents that live here. So I feel like, it's a big push now to get this through. And we have a voice. Alec and I worked in the hydro store industry when the recession hit, and believe me, business was booming. And we saw every range of professional come in that store looking to supplement their income by growing cannabis in their garage or in their backyard, looking for advice. And it was due to the fact they had lost their job. They were construction, mortgage brokers, real estate agents, people that lost everything in the recession, then sought out this plant to make a little side income, which benefited. And now the county is going to turn up their nose to this, while this cannabis community, I pretty much think, and helped prop this community up during the recession times in 2008, 2009, and 2010. So, now that, the economy's doing well, everybody wants to throw this to the side and everything. Well, what happens again when another recession hits? So that's about all I have.
I like what you were saying, Chris. Kind of on the just the microbial reality of I oftentimes talk about Michael Pollan. So informed my whole philosophy on life and everything. But in Body and Desire, that in that book, he also kind of talks about how cannabis farmers and just how much intensive focus that there is on this plant and perfecting it and trying to mimic nature to create the most perfect environment for it to thrive in. He sees as almost his future for farming and where it's going, and it's kind of it's really kind of as above so below, kind of bringing up stuff with kind of just the microbiome of the soil, and whenever it's so microbial rich and diverse and perfect, it's plants thrive so much in that, and in so many ways when our microbiome is diverse and rich and thriving, which is also from us being in the dirt and in the environment, right, breathing in like natural microbiome, it's like we're thriving, helping people, and so I'm really excited to be part of this community and in service to this plant, and I serve on the board of directors of WHAM, and I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to just understand how compassion has been such a big part of this plant, and how it's also the future, and so it's something we always have to fight for. The work I do at SC Labs, anyone's ever interested in coming and check it out, you're welcome to come by SC Lab, take a tour. We're over on 100 Pioneer Street, over by Costco and Harvey West area. And thank you very much for listening and come.
Thank you, speakers. Thank you, guys. We got time for a quick family photo. All right, we're gonna give everybody a couple minutes, stretch your legs, let the blood flow, and then we got the future of cannabis in Santa Cruz County, our final panel of the afternoon. Thank you so much for everyone that's here, and we'll be right back after a couple minutes. Jay, will you do the honors? Get a little shot of us together.
And could we get
Up like this one.
please?
Right on, guys. Thanks for coming. Ready?
Say we.
Trees. I like trees because it's double whammy. It's my favorite too. Thanks for coming, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate you guys. Thanks, Jason. Oh, sorry, man. Thanks for coming, man. Appreciate you guys mobilized. That was awesome.
I might drive my car. I don't know.
Well, maybe Chris is going to have us all
Thanks for hanging.
Thank you for doing all
Yeah,
this.
man.
It's really been mind
It's
expanding.
been cool, yeah.
Let's get coffee sometime.
I'm down, dude.
Cool.
Always down.
Yeah, thank you.
Love you, man.
Really good to see you.
It's really good to see you.
So we have a meeting this week with one in front of the Veterans Service Council after this county election. The one here. To see if we can hold our meetings.
That'd be really good.
Yeah.
I'm just showing my friend the
Yeah, no, definitely. We're already the first one. So we hope this one does. There was a big fantasy of which was a couple years ago. We're just having a meeting and every member gets a voucher. Bring him in. Redeem after. It's a big It was a great. It was. We were like stimulating with still open. It was for 2 years.
You actively improve
Years and now they're open.
ability
Gone through some management.
to stasis in your
Still
circulatory
listening
system, respiratory,
I mean,
and also just overall.
I hope so. You know, it's an older generation that has control of it and everything. You know,
Interact with the world. I would say it's hard to say like one specific variety because it's the relationship of the to the peripheral and the central nervous system. I would just say incorporating some sort of cannabinoid therapy would help bring your body down. It doesn't really although it doesn't produce, I would say a ratio is actually the best bet because then you're getting more, you're getting more CD1 receptors. You just focus on your my recommendation is a ratio. And that would also improve anti-inflammatory. It would help for all these other things too. Well, I got a bunch of fibromyalgia, absolutely.
My name is
Yeah.
Kokoro.
Or the other, arthritis. My dad has really bad arthritis too.
Awesome. I haven't seen Paul in a hot minute, man. Of course. We see like each other every now and then.
He's been here 3 times a
Oh, that's
week.
good.
Yeah.
To
Awesome.
where is care in life.
I was right when meeting there
Mental,
3 or 4 years ago. I held a screen of a veteran film. Pretty clear on what was happening the first time, and then he had the veterans project going. And sort of like kept in touch. I haven't seen him in a while. I got a family now. And
our bodies are designed for.
You ever get downtown?
No, I used to live in
Human cannabinoids is called anandamide, which is named after
kid-friendly
Nanda,
place.
Sanskrit
Right,
word
so
for
we have kids.
So
When the kids come in here, you can tell them to write on the wall.
2-HT is fresh milk, so when it gets
I was gonna read. I had it to time to send it to other everything. And it's fine.
actually
It's
a
kind of like
cannabinoid strain
$3
from other teams. Like you see those babies
These kids kid friendly. Their eyes go back to their They call it milk drug. What it is an abundance of cannabinoids in the baby's brain. The baby is a little high, but it's a natural high because it's important for the settling.
Great space.
Without it, that initial bond between the child and mother, it's not as strong. So it's very important. I've had a lot of people on my radio show say when they first tried cannabis, they were raised with formula. Their first try of cannabis felt like mother's milk. It felt like for the first time they had this warm,
I like
every Friday night. There it is. It's called the Cannabis Day. It's every Friday night at 8 o'clock. There's a website you can listen to everything on the website. Reminder 20 hours.
Well, hopefully, we were excuse me, advocating.
Come inside. My name is Kokoro. This is my last
Feel like, that strength in numbers.
The house rules are.
And so,
grandma's
to
house.
them and everything,
So it's
not
safe.
only
Can't open them, I don't know how you do it. I
comfortable,
got a knife out.
And there's also a back area back there as well too.
Oh, cool.
I actually, the mission that I
Oh, I
got
went to the wrong end of the ball first.
started
It's
as
like
a
you're too late.
the same mission.
I made a mistake about going up or down. Because in the bay, I have them post directly on my and it showed up this
We keep fighting.
or at least I finally noticed
We're just
it.
keep pushing at it, keep punching at it.
I've always been
And I'd go to the back, I just want to go back and wait for your
heal is with through cannabis and through other
Right, very comfortable. I think they're on you.
so I think it would probably be a good opportunity. But I think we need to balance, doing something where in other places we might be
Oh, believe me, a lot of the veteran community don't see eye on eye with what's going on. But come to our meetings, it's open to public and everything. Come out and
Okay.
check it out. What'd you do?
Rodney.
Sally.
Yeah, we might be connected on Instagram. I'm not sure.
I think so.
All right.
Go continue.
All right, you too.
How you doing, man? Maybe this week on some. I don't know.
Civil music.
That people can talk about.
Yeah, we had baseball this morning.
Refresh and.
How'd your boy do? Did he have fun?
How's he doing? It was picture day.
Oh, it's picture day.
Look, I just signed it off. My